We're talking about the Ford Maverick with Dwayne from Driven Wild Outdoors. Check his channel out. We've got a man with a whole lot of knowledge, running several businesses beyond the YouTube business, building homes, buying and selling homes. You've a man with a lot of knowledge behind the belt, and also a lot of knowledge when it comes to Ford, because you have several of them. You've got two Ford Broncos. You waited a year for a Ford Ranger. And, I'm glad to have you on the show. Thank you for being here, my friend.
Well, thank you for having me. And I read something today on the Ford, or oh yeah, on the Maverick. And I hope I'm not spilling the beans here. That some options maybe with the tailgates coming out. Did you see that?
The option, sorry, my link cut out for just a moment.
Uh, so maybe the Ford Maverick gets a sort of a mid bed gate type
Yeah.
thing. Are they going to change the bed on that? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so absolutely. So that's not spilling the beans, that's introducing the beans. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about changes that have been made to the Maverick, changes that are coming to the Maverick, pricing, of course, which model should you buy, and should you buy now or later. So one of the major changes that has been made, you're completely right. You've got that mid-bed tailgate. So let's look at what that looks like in everyday use. I think this is actually pretty helpful, because let's face it, the Maverick has a 4.5 foot bed, and that's not a ton of bed. So there is a patent filing suggests that the Ford Maverick could get the midgate. So this was written by Brett Foote just recently on May 4th. I hope May the 4th was with everyone yesterday. So how this would set up, and I know this isn't the greatest here because the lighting I've got in the studio, it doesn't do great with white background, but you see right there, you got the space, the metal, the bed metal underneath the rear window. You'd have the seats and the metal that could fold down so that you could slide longer objects in without opening the tailgate. So with the tailgate closed, you've got the tailgate here, it's closed. This is a Ford patent. That's why it's not the prettiest. This is how patents get put in. So you've got the tailgate closed, you've got what looks like a surfboard with the fin right there. And instead of having just the 4.5 foot box, you've got the metal of the bed that somehow either slid down or pushed forward or back. You've got the seats that are obviously would need to be down, and you've got something going right through so you can take on longer options. Now, this is one of those things that we'd say it's a change. It looks like the metal would flip up because we've got right there, we've got our you're in construction. Help me out with the correct term here. But
Hinges.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Bracket, whatever people like to call it there. But you've got, thank you. So you've got more space out of the Ford Maverick. I think a lot of people that would actually got pushed out of getting a Maverick because of box size, this could bring them back into the market. So I hope Ford doesn't just patent this, but I hope it actually comes to market. Dwayne, from your experience with building, with plans and whatnot, what would be your bet for, from conception to having the concrete product in on the market? What do you think the fastest they could get that out?
I would say definitely within 24 months. And the reason why I say that is because it's one thing to draw it, to design it. They can do that relatively quick with all the resources that Ford has. The designers are awesome, right? But then you have to get into real world testing. And then once you get through testing, then there may be some, safety type concerns. There's always that thing that shows up later. How does it weather? They have to get so many miles on the vehicle and they have to drive it and they have to real road test it, right? Because theory is one thing, but road testing is completely another. And so I would say safely 24 months from the time it was first an idea until you see it as an option.
I agree 100% with you. And it goes back, what you're saying makes me think of the Transit when they had finally decided on the door hinge setup that they wanted for that sliding door, the sliding side door on the Transit. They tested it out 400,000 times on several vehicles, and they wanted that they had patented something in the past. They went out, bid to offers, had companies say, we'll make it, have it delivered, and then they wanted to test it out. And had it not passed, it's black and white. They said we have to be able to open and close the door 400,000 times. Had it not passed that test, it'd been back to the drawing board. So this design, if when they're testing it out, several 100,000 times of open close, if the seat falls apart or the midgate underneath the window, if that comes loose, falls apart, whatever it may be, rusts out from friction points, they're going to be back to the drawing board. So best case scenario, this would be the type of thing we could see in 2 years. Now you have, just to show everyone, you have the seat earlier, just to show, not just tell. This is show and tell, folks. Learned it in kindergarten in grade 1 that you have to show and tell. Here we go. So you've got the seat down here, and you've got the midgate flipped up that we saw in the last diagram. Now, actual changes we definitely will see on the Ford Maverick. This is pretty exciting. We've had, of course, the Tremor come out, and originally that was just, rumors. And now we have the rumor of a potential street version of the Maverick. So by street version, we're talking more in the lines of an ST or an ST line, the way that you see an Edge or an Explorer or several Ford products. When they go ST, they get the ST treatment. They're getting more of that, city racer look or the road racer look to it. So we could potentially see a Maverick that is lower. Definitely, if it's going with Ford tradition, it means dark mags, no chrome, more of a race look. And I just happen, now this is the wrong tire, but I just happen to have a picture here of a customer that chose these wheels out, this part of our Maverick community now, and they chose these black wheels out. Now these tires, BF Goodrich KO3s, fine. I know, sorry, they're not KO3s, but anyways, fine choice. But that's, of course, an off-road all year round tire. It would have, if it gets the ST treatment, we'd probably be looking at either boosting up the 2-liter turbo or maybe a 2.3-liter, the way we have in the Ford Explorer as the standard engine in the Ranger, and the Maverick would be lower. So that's Lobo, I believe, in Spanish. People in the community who speak Spanish, please help me out, but I think it means wolf in Spanish. So we could be getting a street version of the Maverick, which I think could be pretty darn exciting. Is that something that could interest you?
Yeah, I think so. And then, someone, I think it was Jack Evans, said 17,000 Mavericks were produced in April. Now, is that just because more and more people want a Maverick, or is that because more and more people can afford one over another type vehicle? And so I think that's the question. I think the Maverick's a cool vehicle. I do like it. But yeah, when you start adding some of that difference, that nuances to it from the factory, absolutely. Yeah, it definitely interests me now. And it would definitely interest me then. And it also gives you sort of that head start to modifying it, right? So
Yeah.
it's not just a plain vehicle, but now you can take what Ford's given you as that special option, and you start tricking that out a little bit and make it uniquely yours.
Yeah, no, those are good points. And you hit on something pretty important, and that's the more versatile they can make the Maverick, the more people it can reach out and interest, the better it's going to be the better off Ford's going to be. As it is, Ford has been drawing in the majority of Maverick sales. A little over 60% of Maverick sales are people coming from other brands. And
Nice.
now that they can produce more of these Mavericks, why not go into, early on, it would have been silly. 2 years ago, it would have been silly to come along and say, look, we have more variations of the Maverick because we want to get more people into the Ford Maverick market because it is a needed market. People need a versatile truck that is relatively inexpensive. And of course, the prices on these vehicles have gotten, all vehicles everywhere, all the manufacturers, they're out of hand, and they're pushing more people out of the market. And in pushing
Sure.
more people out of the market that remains that can actually afford a new vehicle, Ford's got to go out and reach as many of them as possible. So it's great to see. You bring up a great point. Ford Maverick production is up. So now is a good time to bring on added variations and greater versatility, because the more versatile the truck is, such as, let's say, with the tailgate closed, if you can get
Yeah.
6.5 feet of well, what would the back seat of a Maverick be? It must be 2.5 to 3 feet. You can
Sure.
get,
At least three from the back of the seat to the back of the
yeah.
front seats. Yeah.
So if you're looking at 7.5 feet of space that you can, for builders, maybe for
Sure.
yourself as a builder, you'll say,
Yeah.
what, 10 of my employees are going to have Mavericks because it can, we'll rough up the back seat, but they're going to put, 4x8s in
Mhm.
there. They're going to put the construction materials. I already know of a few companies that have bought the Maverick and said, you know what, we'll just deal with it. And if it's too long, well, we've got a Super Duty with the trailer and we'll just throw it into the Super Duty or throw it on the Super Duty's trailer. So they really need to, as the
Yeah.
market actually, it's sad. Many people are getting pushed out of the market. And I won't get into my long explanations on how taxation and fines are pushing a lot of the middle class out of out of the market for a new vehicle. But Ford, for that market that's left, Ford's got to go out and get as many of them as they possibly can.
Yeah, and Johnny, there's parallels to real estate as well. I look at that the Maverick behind you. I think about a local city here. Their entire fleet of city vehicles are leased to Mavericks. Uh, they
Wow.
have they have I probably, if I'm guessing here, 75 to 100 of them. And they, I mean, they're hybrids, and then they have the cool accessories for the back to hold, hand. So some of them are wastewater, some of them are city inspectors, some of them are zoning. It doesn't matter what department it is. And when I ask them, we deal with them a lot in our business. Oh, they're great. They're like as comfortable as a car, versatile as a small truck. So it meets all that. The parallels in real estate, though, are a lot of people are being priced out of home ownership, and they're being priced out partly of larger groups of piles of cash, hedge funds or whatever, buying that typical house that they're buying is the first time home buyer house, right? So think about the affordability in the car market, but also that regulation, building codes, zoning here in the States is driving the cost up even more. So regulation or red tape or taxes, or, you're mentioning all that. So I get it. The downward pressure on everyone financially right now is, I think, incredible. I think the Maverick answers a lot of those questions. If you need a car, a Maverick will work. If you need a light, small truck, a Maverick will work. So just think of all the people and look at the pricing. I mean, out of everything on the market right now, it's some of the most affordable for the most versatile, I think.
That's really well said. And Car Questions Answered, Brandon over there. Don't forget to subscribe to his channel. Bringing up some really great points here. Ford Blue earnings down 60%. Ford Pro sales up 120%. Yeah, Pro sales, the commercial side of sales for Ford used to basically be, for at least for dealers, it's like cost plus $100. And that means usually when the dealer is making essentially nothing, Ford's making essentially nothing. And there's been a change in that. There's been, over from the pandemic to now. Prior to the pandemic, that's the way it was now. And now there's actually a little bit of money, as you can see from, the 120% increase in sales. And also it's an increase in profitability on the commercial side of things. And companies are going to have to rely on those commercial sales more and more as the middle class, unfortunately, gets pushed out of home ownership and new vehicle ownership. It's a
Yeah.
sad reality. I hope things change. I hope this isn't permanent. I think, part of the American dream or Canadian dream is to buy a home, have a family, have vehicle ownership. I remember, my grandfather started from absolutely nothing. Well, on my stepdad's side, the grandfather came from Europe with literally nothing. Had a period where there was, just the grandmother in the home because he got sent off to a camp for no reason at all other than being born the wrong nationality. But it was tough. And even then, when he got back to working for free on a farm encampment, he was working in a factory. And yes, he eventually made it up to factory foreman, but he was able to, with just back when he was back to working, he provided for the whole family. They had a vehicle and they had a cottage. And now where they lived in Montreal, it's worth several $1 million. And that's wild because that used to be where the very poor immigrants would purchase. So the Canadian and American dream of owning a home and owning a vehicle, it's becoming more and more difficult. So Ford needs to reach out to more and more people, and we need to actually save money where we can. And that brings up to the next point on the Ford Maverick. Changes to come. Well, a little bit of inside information has told me that from the very beginning of not producing the Maverick, from you know creating the Maverick, the whole idea behind the Maverick, the original plan before it was available on dealer lots, is that 2025 would be the year that they'd come along with the all-wheel drive hybrid, not a plug-in, but an all-wheel drive hybrid. So I'm still hoping that Ford hasn't had to, move aside that project. I still hope they're able to go down that path, in that, in a few months, we're going to be finding out, I hope, and I suspect that there'll be an all-wheel drive hybrid Maverick, making it, more versatile and getting into, the realm of possibility for more buyers. With market share shrinking, you got to eat up and take up as much market share as you possibly can. And I think Ford is really well positioned to do that, especially when it comes to hybrids, which is now the popularity of electrics. Now that first adopters are one and done, they're gone, they're done with. Hybrids the way to go. Ford has completely
Yep.
changed. Jim Farley, CEO at Ford, has said we're putting the back, we're cooling off our projects on electric vehicles. We're supposed to have a Gen 2 2025 Lightning, as well as the all electric Explorer. And now they're getting pushed back a year and 1 year and 2 years. So projects for the electric side of things getting pushed off. And he said it's to bring forth quicker than expected the hybrid options. So
Sure.
we'll talk about the Ranger later and how it's probably going hybrid pretty soon, as well as the Bronco. But I think I'm certain an all-wheel drive
Yeah.
hybrid Maverick will suit a lot of people. I bet it could be pretty useful for your business.
Well, yeah, it would. I mentioned in the video today, right now, what we need is heavier duty, like for towing skid steers or large trailers with something like that. So the 250, 350s are, but there comes a point to where as we, grow, we need people for warranty work or whatever. The Ford Maverick's going to be the perfect vehicle for that. And by the way, I want to shout out to Brandon over at Car Questions Answered. I watch, probably, if when I see videos that talk about the pressure on the market from cost and interest rates in the economy, I don't know, Johnny, other than you, I don't know of anyone that does a better job explaining that
I
what
agree.
what's happening in the used car market. And so if you ever want to sort of get the pulse on what's going on in your economy, check out that information. It's great. I have to say that the Maverick is, for me, it is definitely a vehicle. There's some exterminators here, home inspectors, things like that. They're not carrying a tremendous amount of load, but they're driving the heck out of the vehicle. And guess what? The Maverick's good on gas. It's affordable to buy. The
Yeah.
maintenance, so now what's
Better than a Honda
happening.
Civic.
Oh yeah, and so it's the best of every world because this exterminator runs around with this big tank in the back. He's carrying a lot of liquid. Who knows what's in it? But I don't probably want to know. But it's a big tank in the back.
You don't want to
Um,
sniff it. You don't want to drink
no,
it. You should probably stay
yeah,
10 feet
just
away from it.
yeah, just stay away from it. But they use it, and they have, I don't know, two or three of them. This company, as far as I know I've seen different colors, so I know at least two of them. But there's a lot more companies doing that, and I think as you put pressure on individuals, families, and companies, small businesses, you start to determine what vehicle that they buy and how they have to change their habits and to fit the vehicle that they can buy.
No, a lot of what's going to be going down in the next few years is about changing habits. Some people are going to be pushed that would have bought new are going to be pushed into used. Some people that would have bought used are going to be pushed onto the bus. We've heard it in comments made by politicians. So we know this more. Use your legs or go ride a bicycle. Heck, in my city, they're spending millions of dollars cutting down the sides of roads, important roads that we need, taking lanes out so that they can have little bicycle sidewalks on either side. And then over more than a year, I've only ever seen a bicycle on it once. So not always the most sensible things, not always the best way to spend money, but hey, if government's got to do something with our money. But anywho, let's talk about money. That now this is the second part of this Maverick talk. We've got the XL here starting at 23,815. When you go to build it here, don't be fooled. When you go online to build a vehicle, what you're seeing is the price before transport and handling. And that's just the way it is for all the manufacturers. So there's no point in getting all angry and frustrated and saying, I won't buy a Ford because of it. They're they're all playing the same game. You know, they're all following the same rules. If you don't like the rules, that's fair. Just don't hate on one company for playing that way. That's just the way they play. Now, if you look at an XLT, you're looking at 26,315, and if you either model $2,000 transport and handling to add on, but either model, let's look. Hybrid used to be the standard engine, but the problem is that roughly 73% of people that order a Maverick, and let's be honest, those are the people getting Mavericks, other than your lucky lottery winner that finds one that just got canceled off a lot and picks it up before the sales team has time to call their own clients that have been waiting. But it used to be a free option, this engine. It was the standard engine, the hybrid. Now, the hybrid's running we'd go from 23,815 to 25,315. So there's an added cost to the hybrid engine. And some people are going to feel that's really, unjust, unfair. I kind of see it as managing the demand in an intelligent way. If you've got 73% of the people building the hybrid, and it's fair if they just can't build that many hybrids. Remember, they need those hybrids also over essentially, they need to some of these batteries to go towards the Ford Escape, some of these batteries to go to different models, future plans. They can only get so many possibly. So this is why, to sort of rebalance the demand, because really what they can build is about 50% EcoBoost, 50% hybrid. So Ford's hoping that with making the hybrid a cost option, you'll have those people that, and I see it every day, people that drive 8 to 8,000 kilometers. So we're talking about 3 to 5,000 miles per year. They're like, I have to have a hybrid. And I'm thinking, especially when it's on a vehicle where it's, a $5,000 or a $7,000 option, which is almost always the case at other brands. I'm thinking, do you think you need a hybrid engine? All you're going to do is, instead of spending $900 a year on fuel, you're going to spend $600 a year on fuel. You're for a $300 difference yearly, you're willing to spend $5,000 or $7,000 more. Ford traditionally doesn't really charge extra for a hybrid. This is one of those instances where they do. And of course, and I want to get your opinion on this, Dwayne, because I want to know which one you think makes the most sense. But you've got the Lariat. If I can just scroll out there, you've got the Lariat starting at 34,855. If we're on the Canadian side, all of these vehicles would be automatically all-wheel drive, and you still have the same added charge for the hybrid engine. So what do you think is the right model? Oh, do we still have you, Dwayne? Okay, so we'll let Dwayne's internet. No worries. I'm assuming it's probably your internet. You're probably having a bit of trouble picking up internet. With no problem. Hope it comes back. But yeah, what do you think is in your opinion? What's the right model? Does it make sense to spend $34,000 on a Lariat, or is it better to just equip an XLT with that luxury package to get the heated seats, heated steering wheel? What would make sense for you, my friend?
If you can swing it, I would go that way because you some of that more you drive. Obviously, you just said it, with the person that drives 3,000 miles a year is not going to get a return really on their investment. But a company like the home inspector, the bug company I was talking about, um, they they will definitely get a return on that investment of going
Yeah,
with that hybrid.
no doubt.
I mean, no doubt. Um, Yeah, and I think one thing that's interesting when you talk about electric, and this really, I'll probably bring this up later, but I'll just mention of electricity between the time and the time it's actually put into a battery, whatever that equation of what's better for you or the environment or whatever. So,
Yeah.
I like how it gives you options.
Yeah,
It's not just you know gas, or it's not just the plug-in. You have options.
yeah, I really I feel the same way. I had an electric truck. I had the Ford F-150 Lightning, and it's irritating when you're like, okay, well, driving down to Florida isn't really an option because I don't feel like having at least 15 stops to make to go through the whole charging process. So I'm a much bigger fan of plug-in or hybrid. Now, I don't think we'll have a plug-in Maverick for 2025. I'd say that's a little later. down the road, maybe when we do a full refresh, because we should expect a 2025 mid-model refresh out of the Maverick. So maybe the lights change a little, maybe a little bit of the hood changing. Think of the recent F-150 changes that we saw, where we did get exactly that. On the F-150, we can go check it out on the Tremor model. They changed the lights. They actually removed the LED lights, which is a bit of a debatable topic, whether not everyone's thrilled about that, but they did completely change the grille. The hood stayed the same. So the Ford Maverick, the bumper changed, the fog lights changed. So when we do see the Ford Maverick mid-model refresh coming for 2025, we can expect a lot of the same with a few variations, which is good. You know, if you have a 2024, your trade-in value or your resale value isn't going to tank because the new model is so much different and, you know, so much better. We can expect that in about 2 to 3 years, 2 to 4 years down the road. I'd almost expect a plug-in to come in with the whole new Maverick, not just a refresh, but when they do the whole redesign, which usually we're looking at 5 to 8 years as a lifespan for a vehicle over at Ford.
Well,
Now, I think
I'm looking forward to those small changes.
is probably the best brand for that. They've never gone off of the 1960s business model or marketing model of having a new color, at least one new color, and having sort of like a special edition model come out every year, something to get the journalists and the community excited and talking. So I hope Ford does more of that, you know, and when we're talking about possibly a street version of the Ford Maverick, which could be called Lobo, it could be called the Maverick ST. We already have the Tremor, which is great. So we have our off-road model. There's a lot of excitement behind that. If ever this does get the 2.3 liter plug-in option, that's going to be a complete beast when it comes to power because this truck is light. It weighs about 3,700 pounds. And think Ford already has that 2.3 liter on, you know, on file, on standby, because Europe is about to get their plug-in Ford Ranger. So we'll talk about the Ford Ranger, and well, the 2.3 liter from the Ford Ranger as a plug-in means it can also very well come, well, it will come to the Ford Bronco. It's just a question of whether we're talking about 1 year or a few years. So we're going to get into talking about the Ranger. Dwayne, did I miss anything here, or the community? Please let us know. Am I missing anything when it comes to changes that have been made to the Ford Maverick?